All right, good morning everyone. Happy Friday, welcome to the weekend. Okay, so we're going to do some mobility for our Friday morning. So I will get started with our disclaimer and then we'll move into some warm-up and our mobility phase. So to start, my name is Jessica Davis. I'm a fitness and sports instructor in CFB Gagetown in New Brunswick. And here is our disclaimer that I have to share before we start. So in response to COVID-19, PSP is offering telefitness to Canadian Armed Force members by using social media platforms. The telefitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Force personnel become accessible to all. You should prior to participating in this session and to make an informed decision on whether you should seek advice from a qualified exercise professional or healthcare provider, please consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and its reference document, simply by clicking on the links below. So on Facebook, there will be a couple of links show up in the comments there. If you're not able to see them for some reason in the comments, then you can scroll back to any of our other live videos and you will see the links there. So just check those out to make sure that you are safe to continue. So by continuing with this telefitness class, you understand that there's a possibility of physical injury and you agree that you do so voluntarily and at your own risk. You also assume all risk of injury and agree to release the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services from any and all claims related to your participation in this telefitness class. Okay. Perfect. All right. So for this class, all you'll need is a yoga or a fitness mat, something that gives you a little bit of cushioning underneath you, as well as either some, if you have yoga blocks, either foam or cork, or just a couple large textbooks, some folded up blankets or a couple pillows, something that you can, we'll just be using it to sit on at one point to give us a little extra height. So just grab something like that and your mat, and that's all you'll need. And some water or tea or coffee, whatever you want. So today I thought I would share some mobility exercises that you can kind of use both as kind of like an evaluation to test your mobility within certain movements or certain joints, as well as these 5 mobility exercises that I have you could use as like movement preparation. So before you do a workout, you could use some of these as kind of an extension of your warm-up to make sure your body is really moving and flowing properly before you do your warm-up. And I mean, they could even be used like at the end of a workout to start into a cool down and doing mobility and stretching. So there's kind of a variety of ways that you could use these 5 little flows that I'm going to show you. So before we get into those, I'll do just like full body dynamic warm up from head to toe, and then we'll get into kind of more of the detailed movements. And then if there's time at the end, we'll end with like a good stretch of different muscle groups and joints that we've worked on. So let's start our dynamic warm-up. So standing tall, we'll just start head to toe. So starting with your head, bring your your left ear towards your left shoulder. And then tuck your chin to your chest and roll your neck around so your right ear is now down to your right shoulder and all the way back. Again to the right. Nice and slow, not rushed at all. This time bring your chin around and your ear down to your left shoulder, and then bring your head up to look over your left shoulder. And then drop the ear back down, rotate your head back around to the right. And once your ear makes it to the right, then lift your head. You'll feel the stretch kind of move into the front and side of your neck. Drop your chin again. Rotate down and around to the left. Open up and look to the side. Down around again to the right. One more time to the left. And one more time to the right. Good. Bring your head back up to neutral and start some arm movements. So we're going to come up and down first with our arms. Just swinging our arms up and down, only going as far as is comfortable for you right now because we're still warming up. And then let's open our arms and then bring them across in front of our body. And switch up which arm is on top each time you cross. Good. And then we're going to pretend like we're in a plank position and do a push-up. So we're going to have our hands tucked in at our shoulders and then push out and bring them back. So just that continuous movement. Getting all different movements in our shoulders here. And then we'll end with the shoulders with some circles. So arm circles, starting nice and small. And slowly, gradually making them a little bit bigger. And then really making them large, starting to exaggerating, opening up through your chest, rounding through your upper spine. And switching directions with that, shake it out. And switch directions with your circles, starting small again. Getting a bit bigger. And then even bigger, really start to exaggerate, expanding through the chest, rounding through the upper back. Good. Shake out your arms. Awesome. Now bring your feet fairly wide, and we're going to lunge to the sides. So lateral lunge to the right, back up, lateral lunge to the left. You don't need to go deep here. We're just warming up through our hips and our knees and our ankles. Keep your chest up nice and tall. And just a little bit of a bend from side to side. And when we bend into the right, let's just extend our arm up and overhead. To the left, extend. To the right, extend. We're not stopping there for a stretch. We're just flowing between the two sides, giving a bit of a warm up into our side body and core as well. Just nice and slow and controlled. One more on each side. And there we go. Heel toe your feet back up together. and come into just a hip width apart stance. I'm going to stand sideways so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to do 2 movements and put them together. So first one is to squat, so just a normal squat, back up, and then we're going to hinge from the hip, keep a slight bend in our knee, and reach towards our toes, using your glutes and your hamstrings to pull yourself back up to standing. Okay, so squat, use your glutes to stand. Now hinge, reach, also use your glutes to stand. Squat, stand, hinge, stand. Squat, stand, hinge, stand. Keep going with this. Really feel that your glutes are engaging to lift you back up through both of these movements. There's going to be some movements and exercises that we do that you really want your glutes to be engaging and supporting you. A couple more here. And the last one. Good. Okay, coming back around to the front. One more time, we're going to do a nice wide stance. And your toes can face out a little more on this one. So just whatever stance your body will give you right now, don't push it too much. And then just give a slight squat. So we're just barely moving to the top of our squat, and you want to stop before your knees make it to a 90-degree bend. So just a nice small squat. Our glutes are really engaged here. And then next time you squat down, lift up your right heel onto your right toe, lift up your left heel onto your left toe, and back up, down, toe, toe, up, down, toe, toe, up, down, toe, toe, up. Keep going with that. Getting a little bit more movement and warm up into our hips, legs, knees, calves, ankles, toes. It's all getting warmed up here. 2 more. Last one. Good. Heel toe your feet back together. And then coming into ankle rolls. So just, you can hold the wall or a chair or something if you need some balance. Just give your ankles a roll out in one direction and switching directions on this foot. And switch feet. Other side. And switch directions. Good. Awesome. All right. 8:15. Okay, let's move into our first kind of mobility drill. So we'll come on to all fours, so on your hands and knees. We'll do a bit of a wrist roll and warm up here first as well. So just give your wrists a good roll around, making a fist. And then pretend like you're flicking water off your fingers. So making a fist, and then flick. Keep flicking as fast as you can. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Shake out your wrists a little. Roll them if you need to one more time. And then we want to have nice active hands while we're in this tabletop position. So making sure your fingers are pressing into the mat. Where your fingers meet your palm, you want pressing nice and firm into the mat, and then the base of your palm as well. And then you want a nice flat back. The tops of your feet can be on the mat, or your toes can be tucked under. It's up to you. So we'll just start with cat and cow. So inhaling, lifting your head, lifting your tailbone, dropping your belly. And then exhale, push up and round through your back, drop your chin to your chest, and drop your tailbone. Again, inhale, and back up through cow, drop the belly. Exhale, round your back, push your shoulders up to the ceiling and cat. Inhale. Exhale. One more time, inhale. And exhale. Good. Come back to a neutral spine. And we're going to work through like a very slow mountain climber or a kneeling mountain climber. So if you come into high plank, so from high plank, a mountain climber would be bringing one knee up to the elbow. So from here, we're going to instead just slow it down. So bring left foot up to left hand. If you need some more height for this, you can use your books or blocks or whatever it is you had. So instead you can rise up to the front of your plank, and now you have some more space to step your foot forward. If you've got something even higher, you can do it off a couch or a chair. Then that just increases the space that you have here to move through your hip to step forward. Okay? So however you want to do it with the height, so right or left foot comes up, left foot steps back, right foot steps up, and right foot steps back. Okay, we're going to do that a couple more times. Left foot up, left foot back, right foot up, and right foot back. One more time. Like I said, you can do it with the blocks. Left foot up gives me more space to move my hips. Left foot back, right foot up, and right foot back. Now we're going to, so the higher you are on your hands, so the more height you give your hands within the plank, the more space you're giving your leg and your hip to move, so the less mobility you have in that hip for this movement. So from going from like a couch, I have less mobility, so you can start to work on through that movement of stepping the foot up to start to bring your hands to a lower position than what the couch is at. If you're at these blocks, then you can start to work towards bringing the blocks down to a lower height. If you're at a lower height of the blocks, then you can start to move towards or have it as a goal to just bring your feet or bring your hands right to the mat to do this. So that's a good way to test the flexion of hip mobility in how much space you need in your hand height from a plank to move the foot forward and back in a mountain climber. So, and then even further from that, instead of being in the high plank to do that movement, if you come down into tabletop, so knees are under the hips and hands are under the shoulders, And then from here, if you round your back up like that cat pose that we just did, that we flowed through. So you're engaging your core here to round your shoulders up towards the ceiling, and then you lift the left foot and knee off the mat. So I'm up and rounded, my core is engaged, and then here I have enough space to set my foot down before I extend my spine back out to a neutral. And then I'll round back up again, engaging my core, and then I can lift and set that left knee back down, and then come back into a neutral spine for a second. So I'll inhale here, I'll exhale as I round up, bring my core in and step my right foot forward, and then inhale here to a neutral spine again. Exhale, round up through the back and let the right foot come back. Inhale to flatten out. Exhale, round and step the left foot forward. Inhale to relax a bit. Exhale, round, core is engaged, foot comes back around, and inhale back to neutral. So there's lots of ways that you can move through a mountain climber position, either with some height or with a little bit less space to move your hip, to really test how your mobility is within hip flexion. And how well your core is engaging to help you create that hip flexion as well. So if you want to play with that and move through those different heights within the high plank and the tabletop position, then you can keep playing with that. Or I'll show you another one here. So also for hips and knees. This is one that I have shown before and I often do in mobility classes at the fitness center. So you're going to be sitting in a position that both knees are at 90 degrees. So I have my right leg right now so that my right calf or shin is running along the long edge of my mat, and then my left shin is parallel to the short edge of my mat. So 90-degree bend in both knees. My feet are going to stay where they are. I'm only going to lift my knees up, and I'm going to transfer them over so I'm now in the exact same 90 knee position, but facing the opposite direction. Again, feet stay where they are, knees lift, and transfer them over. And you just flip back and forth. You can also use your hands to support behind you. So if you don't quite have the flexibility and mobility in the hips to sit up nice and straight through this, then if you just reach your hands back behind you, keep your feet where they are, lift the knees, and flip-flop back and forth. Then you can start to create some space and some movement through your hip joints, but it's not as active. Whereas if you sit up nice and tall and you're able to flip-flop your knees back and forth, bring a little bit more core stabilization into it, and make it a little more active. And then there's some different levels you can create through this as well of movement. So you can just do what we've been doing, flip-flopping back and forth, or as you lift the knees and come to one side, you can start to lift up and kind of come into a kneeling position on that knee you just moved towards. Sitting back down and flowing over to the other side, propping up and kneeling on the one you just moved towards, and you just move back and forth like that. Making it a little bit more active even still. You can kneel and then step the back foot forward into kind of a kneeling lunge. And then this is the tricky part. I'm going to move back here for Instagram. The tricky part is to keep your position as best you can. Keep nice and balanced. Slow and controlled. Move that front foot now as the back foot again. And sit back down with control and flop over to the other side again. So I'll show you again how that worked. Feet stay where they are, knees lift. Come up to the kneel, and then back foot comes around to lunge. Back foot, slow and controlled, goes back where it was, and then you want to sit back down without momentum and without kind of a big plop happening. So over to the right side, step forward, and then slow and controlled, use your muscles to move you and let you slowly sit back down. So that's another good one for hips and knees to test where you're at for core stability of how it's engaged. And like I said, you can play through kind of the different levels of how active or stabilized you need to be with just flipping your knees back and forth versus kneeling and lunging and continuing through that way. Let's see. We'll move over to some glute and core stuff, and then we'll come back to hips and knees again. So we're going to lie in a glute bridge. So lie on your back, feet are just a few inches in front of your hips, knees bent, arms and hands can support at the sides for now. We're going to lift up into our glute bridge. So from the glute bridge, it's a little tricky, so just try to listen to my cues as best you can and watch the screen. We're going to bring our hands as if we're going to do a push-up, even though we're in the wrong position to do that. So hands are tucked in at your sides, elbows in at your sides, hands are at your shoulders like you're going to do a push-up. You're still in a glute bridge. Lift up your right foot. So you're now doing a single leg glute bridge. Your right foot is going to come underneath of your left knee. So see how I just tucked my right foot underneath the left leg, and then I'm going to roll over onto one side. My upper body's not moving, so I'm still in the same position as when I was on my back. This is where it gets hard, and I struggle with it also. You're going to come onto your belly as slow as you possibly can, and then your hands are now in that exact position to do a push-up to high plank. Now we're going to do the opposite, moving back. So drop back to your belly. Your left knee you're going to bend because it was the one supporting us. Trying not to use your hands too much to push you off of the ground to roll back over. And we come back into that bridge position we started with. So I'm going to do it one more time that same way so you can really see what we're doing. So bridge position, right foot extended, hands are tucked into your shoulders. Tuck the right foot underneath and through your left knee, rolling onto your side in the push-up position, rolling onto your belly in the push-up position, and then extending into high plank. Going back, coming back down, left knee bends up, rolling, try not to use your hands too much, all the way back and into your bridge. So this is a tricky one because you're trying to move but use no momentum and just engage all of your muscles. So let's go the other way. So now right foot is going to support, left leg extends. We're going to tuck the left leg underneath and through the right. Roll onto our left side. Try not to plop down on your belly. Roll nice and controlled. And then extend into your high plank. Come back down. Right knee bends this time. Comes over. Rolling with your hands still tucked in. And lifting up into the glute bridge position. Let's go to the left side one more time. So right foot supports, left foot laces under, roll onto your left side. Nice and controlled, bring your belly right to the ground, and then lift through high plank. Come back down. Hands under the shoulders still. Right knee bends. Back onto your side. Right foot comes to the mat. Back into your one leg glute bridge. So that's another one. It really plays with stabilization and how well you're able to control your momentum and your movement with your muscles, as well as a little bit of flexibility. So it's a good mobility drill. Let's see. Let's go back into let's do a lateral lunge run. So we're going to have our nice wide stance again like we did in our warm-up, but not too wide. You just want to be able to come into a comfortable lunge to each side. Now this is where you might want to start incorporating your blocks, books, pillows, whatever you have, blankets, because what we're going to do, so overall goal is to come down to one side, be able to sit on something. So whether you need some height for that, you come down to sit, and you kind of take a little bit of a passive break, and then you bring your weight back up into that foot and lift back up into the lunge. So you can also do this with a couch behind you or a couple low sitting chairs, just something that you're able to come touch down and then lift yourself back out of it and go to the other side. So have either set yourself up behind a couch if you don't have the mobility in your hips and knees to sink right down. Stack up some blankets, some pillows on behind each foot, and then you can come down. You may only make it to here, that's fine, and move back and forth. You can slowly start to, as you create more space, more mobility in your hips, over time, you can start to use just a book or a block to sit yourself down on, keeping your foot nice and flat so you're not having to pop your heel and be up on your toe. And then the second part to it is being able to actively use your muscles to lift yourself back up out of that deep kind of lunge. So I'll show you. So like I said, you can add more height to it, obviously. So in my lunge, if I don't have the mobility to go deep yet, then I lunge over, my thigh sits on this stool, and then I actively come back out of that lunge and stand back up. And then you can work towards sinking deeper, coming lower into the lunge, and then rising back up and out. So as you get better at it, you'll be able to find smaller items to place behind you to sit on and bring yourself back up and out. And you can get nice and deep And if you already have quite a bit of mobility in your hips and this isn't quite enough for you, or even you feel like having blocks there aren't quite enough for you, then you can come right down to seated on the mat. And this is only if you have the mobility through your hip. And then bring yourself back onto that lunging foot and lift all the way back out. So you're getting a full range of deep lunge, actively bringing yourself all the way back up and out of it. So lots of levels of height to play with through that, moving from a chair or a stool or the couch through to blankets and pillows and blocks, and then right down to the floor. So that's always a good one to play with as well. And then we'll do the deep squat. So similar to the lunge, but in a squat position. Again, you can start with some height if you don't have a lot of mobility in your hips. So we want kind of a little bit wider than hip width, and go as deep into a squat as you can. So you want to stay a little bit active. So once your glutes hit the chair or stool, whatever you're using, just keep your legs a little bit active. So you're just kind of hovering on that stool. And then you're going to pop yourself back up and out, squat down, and back up. So play with the depth that you're able to achieve. Don't go any deeper than what your body allows you to right now, and you can start to build the mobility. So then I have 2 blocks here. So same thing, getting a little deeper into my squat. I'm just hovering on those blocks and then press back up. Squat down and press back up. So showing you from the side. So squatting down, I still have a neutral spine and my feet are fully on the mat. I'm not popping up my heels in order to get the depth. So wherever you can go to that your heels are still staying there, and then stand back up. Same thing with the stool. Down and back up. So again, you get to play with the height, and you will slowly see yourself be able to get deeper and deeper. This is not something that you do with any weight. It's only with body weight if you're trying to improve hip mobility and your squat depth. And then you can, once you're finding whatever position you want to be at, you're still being active in your legs so you can lift back up out of your squat. But you can play with a little bit of upper body mobility here as well by opening your arms up to one side, closing it back up, open to the other side, close it back up, and then stand. So squat, open, come center, open, and then stand back up. So lots of height to play with. Eventually, if you're able to come right down into a deep squat and then open up to each side, just depends where your hip and knee mobility is at. You can do the same thing on the stool. So squatting into it, staying a little bit active, open up to one side, back to center, open up to the other side, back to center. So that's a good one to incorporate both lower body and some upper body mobility and opening as well. right, what do we got for time? All right, just a couple minutes. So let's do some hip flexor stretching because we just spent a lot of time in hip flexion. So we'll come into kneeling, grab some water. So in a kneeling position, we'll bring our right foot forward. So in a kneeling lunge, both knees are at 90 degrees. We're going to stretch this left hip flexor. So you're going to tuck your tailbone. Imagine bringing your belly button up towards your chest. Tuck your tailbone under you, and you'll feel that stretch start to come through the left side. If you're not quite feeling it, if you don't think you're feeling it enough, you can lift your left hand up in the air. So this left glute should be nice and active, rotating your hips under so that you can feel that nice stretch, or hand up if you need a little more of a stretch through the left hip. And just nice deep breaths here through this stretch. Good, and then we'll move to the other side. So just bring your hands down to the inside of your right foot. Step that one back. Bring the left foot forward. We'll do the same thing on that side. So you're going to rotate and tilt your hips under. Think about bringing your belly button up towards your chest, tipping your hips, and you'll feel a stretch come down through the right front of the hip. You can also extend your right hand up if you want a little bit deeper stretch. And then just taking nice deep breaths. Good, bringing both hands back down. Extend your left foot back again. You can sit up. If you want to take a little bit of a relaxation moment, you can come down into child's pose. Sink your hips back over your feet. Extend your arms out in front. Bring your forehead down to the mat. And then you can just stay as long as you'd like in child's pose, maybe focusing in on your breath and having a little bit of relaxation. So thank you everyone for joining me. I hope you have an awesome Friday. Hope you have an awesome weekend, and I will see you again next week. Have a good one, everyone.